So I'm going to show you how to use lists, specifically array list, to read a bunch of data from a file, reading a CSV file, and then to do some things with that data. We're going to use the Collections.sort to sort it and binary search to search for stuff. Specifically, the data we are looking at is already in this file, Congress.csv, which I put in here in my project. This is an IntelliJ project. I downloaded this data from the government website right here. So you can go to this URL if you want to download. You have to read that a little bit about how to download a CSV file, but it's pretty easy. So you can get that data. This is basically data on all of the congressmen, senators, representatives, and it's got a bunch of columns. Congress number, current description, right? So each row in this file is a person, and then the columns are things like the description, which is basically their title, and then last name, first name, birthday, etc. So what I want to do is read all that into memory first of all, and then use a list or an array list to do that. Now, this is very common, right? So you see this all the time. A lot of programs have to do this. I'm going to read all this data and do some things with it. My program has to do things with that. So the first thing you want to do is, like I said, each row is a person. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a person class. Let's say new Java class, person. And the CSV file has a bunch of things. I'm not interested in all those things, especially. I'm only going to be interested in extracting the title, first name, last name, and birthday for now. So I'm just going to make those strings. So I'm going to say private string, the person's title, private string, their last name, private string, their first name, and first name, last name, and birthday, right? And then I'm going to generate a bunch of getters and setters for all these. Boom. So there they are, a bunch of getters and setters. I'm also going to need a constructor. I'm going to generate a constructor. I'm going to use just the first name and last name in the constructor. Last name, first name. Last name, first name for my constructor. So there I have a person class with just the 4 things that I want to do for now. Later on, you can add more stuff if you want to. So I'll move this over here. Then the next thing I want to have is I put all those things together. So each row is a person, but I want everything together. Now what some people initially do is they'll just, on their main or whatever, they'll create an array list of person. What you actually want to do in a bigger program is you want to create your own collection class. So I'm going to call my class Congress, as you saw here already a little bit. The Congress is all the people. So the Congress is going to have a private list of person, which is I'm going to call people, and I need to import the Java util list, right? So there's my people now. I got my people there. I'm going to need a constructor. I'm going to select none here. So, and then the constructor is just going to create a new list of person. Oops. I don't want to do that. Has to be an array list, right? And, that's messed up. Okay, so yeah, because list, if you remember, is an interface, so I cannot create an instance of a list. I have to choose a particular implementation of list. We're going with the standard array list for now, but this is key point here, right? So you notice that I'm using the list. I'm using the interface here. So that means that if things go right, this is going to force me so that whenever in this whole file, whenever I'm accessing people, I'm only using things from the interface, which means that later on, if I decide for performance reasons that I don't want to use an array list, I want to use some other implementation, I can just change this one line here. So I can say, something new, something else, and it should work, right? Because everything is using the list. the list interface. So as long as I use something else that implements the list interface, I'm good to go. So this is good. You generally want to use the higher level interface as your member variables declaration type, if you can. So what else? Let's see. So now that we have, we're going to need to add people, of course. So I'm going to public void add person p or person, and that's just going to do people dot add person. Yeah. So, because I'm going to need to add people to my Congress. Awesome. What else do I need to do? So, over here in the main, I already did this before because it's kind of painful to do. I had to go through the file and figure out what the column numbers were for each thing that I'm interested in, and plus some other ones that maybe I'll use later on. So the title is at column 3, the end date of their term is at column 5, the birthday is column 10, first name column 12, etc. So I did that. Then I created this. Let's check this one out. This is my Congress from file factory method. So it's going to take a file name here. So this is my main down here. The first thing it does is it's going to call that file Congress from file with the name of my CSV file. It's going to go over here. And then I'm using a CSV Reader. This is the Open CSV Reader. It's a standard library that's out there that you can use. And I'm not going to go into details of that, but it's awesome. It reads CSV file like this. So what I do is I create an empty Congress. Has nobody in there. Empty Congress. And then I use my reader to read one line at a time. The first thing I do is get rid of the first line because that's just the headers. If you maybe remember, the first line is just that, so I don't need that. I get rid of it. And then I'm going to go through. Next line is going to be the next line. And then I'm going to call this other method, create person from row with the next line. That method is right here. So what I'm doing is the next line is just an array of strings with that row. So I pass that here, and then that creates a new person, and extracts the last name, first name, then sets the title and the birthday, and returns the person. And then I add that to the Congress, and then I get the Congress out. That's it. So the next thing I want to do here is, first I want to make sure that all that works, right? So I want to print out my Congress and see what happens. So when I do that, what's going to happen? It's going to print out something like that. That's now I want an actual list of the Congress. So you'll remember that in order to get that, I'm going to need to define the public string toString method, right? So to list the Congress, what I want to do, well, the first thing I'm going to do is what I need to do here is print each person, right? So how do I do that? With an iterator, right? So I have person is part of people, right? And I'm going to build a string using string builder. Result is a new string builder, right? And then result.append. I'm going to add to that person .toString. And then a new line also, because I want each person to be on a different line when I print them out. And then in the end, I return result.toString. So this is pretty standard. Okay, now that means, of course, I need to implement now person.toString, because otherwise I'm just going to get the same thing. So public capital toString, and then this is a person, so I'm just going to return, let's say first name space last name space title space birthday space then birthday. So I hope that works. Let's see. I'm calling this Congress, which is going to go iterate and print everybody out. Okay, so there we go. So it printed everything in the file. Well, you know, what I captured from the file: first name, last name, the title, junior senator from Missouri, and then the birthday for that person. Awesome. So that's how you do that. Now the next thing I wanted to talk about. So I did that. I showed the list. Now, the first thing you might want to do now is sort these. So these are printed out, as you notice, in the same order that I read them. Right. So that's the thing about array lists. They have an order. By default, the order is the order in which you added them, which is, you know, right here when we added them. Well, technically, right here. So let's say we want to sort them, obviously, by say first name. So we might define a public void sort by first name method, right? Which is going to sort the people. The way you sort is the collections has a bunch of methods, right? So, well, not a bunch, a couple. It's got sort. So collections.sort will sort people, right? So that it kind of works, except it doesn't. And you'll see if I can get this to work. Should implement Java comparator is what it's telling me. It's telling me that the person class should implement the Java comparable interface. So that's a requirement. If you wanted to do sort, you know, the people class, that people class needs to implement comparable interface, and that we'll do that here. So implements comparable with person, right? And then of course it tells me you have to implement the method. So I want to implement the methods, which is just the one. It's called compare to. So I have to implement this compare to another person. Now compare to, it's not a boolean. You might expect this to be a boolean if this guy is less than the other one, but it's actually an integer, and it has to return either -1 if the first one is smaller than the second one, O. So this is comparing this, like this person, to O, the one you're getting past. So it's going to return -1 if it's less than 0 if they're equal, and then +1 if it's bigger. Technically, it could be any negative number, 0 or a positive number. So we got to do that. So we're going to compare this person's, we're going to do first name, right? So first name, and luckily first name is a string, and string already has a compare to method. So I can just use that. Other dot get first name. Dot get first name. Oops. And just return that. Boom. So now I've implemented the comparator. So going back to our main, I can print out the Congress, and then I can say Congress.sort by first name, and then I'm going to print it out again and run that and see what happens. So hopefully it'll print it out first and then sort it and then print it out again, and this one will be sorted by first name. So they are. So you see BWXYZ, Zoe Luckfriend, the last one. Awesome. Okay, now what happens if so that works, sort by first name. What if you want public void, which you're definitely going to want, sort by last name, right? Well, you can't just do this again, right, like that, because people, you can only, so people implements the comparable, so implements this compare to, and that's, that's already set, that's fixed. So if you do that again, it's just going to sort by first name. So what do we do? Well, we have passed a comparator. People. So we have to pass it a new comparator person, as such. So what did I just do here? So if hopefully you're familiar with what we are doing here is we are creating a new anonymous Java class, right? I'm saying new comparator is the interface, and we implemented the interface right here in the middle, right online here. And I'm just saying that the interface only has one method called the compare method, so I can do that. And then I'm implementing that compare method. So instead of return 0, I'm going to return a 1 dot compare. Nope. I want to compare the last name. So O1 dot get last name, and then compare that to O2's last name. So that's sort by last name. So I'm going to sort by first. I'm going to change that to sort by last name and try that. So hopefully that'll run and print out everybody, and then everybody, yep, sorted by the last name. So Ryan Zink is the last one there. Okay, so that works, but you see, we put this business in here. We created this new anonymous class, which made it work, but we put that inside Congress, and this is all about a person. This really should be in the person class, don't you think? Hopefully you agree, because really it should be. So to keep things organized, we should move this to the person class, right? So we have this compare to method. So how do we can't just create another compare to method, right? We can only have one name compare to. But what we can do is we can, comparable. We can create like a factory method. It'll be a static one, public static comparable person, and get last person comparable. That's what I'm going to call it. So that guy, I'm just going to copy now all this thing here. So then I can just move this code from here to here. And then I messed up the parentheses now. So that's that. Let's see, this is that one. So the problem is comparator. I got that wrong. So I need a comparator, not a comparable. Right? Comparable is the interface. The comparator is the method. So that looks good. So I go back here, and then I'm just going to say person.get last person compare, and it should be, the comparator. That's what I should call it wrong. Get last person comparator. Sometimes because Java IntelliJ finishes all your things, it's easy to make mistakes. Okay, so there you go. So I have my collection sort people by person dot and get last person comparator. So all that code is moved over there. I can run that. Hopefully it'll still be the same. So I'll show the people sorted by their last name. And you see, there it is. So awesome, right? Okay, so there's a person job. Now, another thing though is like, well, let's say you're doing this a lot, like you're calling this a lot, sort by last name a lot, which means this gets called often, and you notice that every time you call get last person comparison, it's creating this new instance, and whenever you have a new, that's kind of slow. So if this wasn't a tight loop, or even if it isn't, it's just better to move this to a static variable. So private static, I'm going to need a comparator, person, private static, I call it the last person comparator. And then right here, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to move that once again. It's going to get moved again now to a variable. And I'm going to mess this up. So that's that. That's that. And this is going to return the last person comparator. And then I need one more here. There we go. So all I'm doing is now, this is a variable now, last person comparator, which gets initialized when the program loads, right? Because I am initialized right here when the class is loaded. This gets run, and we can do that because this is just a method. Has not, doesn't. It's just static. We can even make it final. Maybe that'll help speed things up a little bit more. But yeah. So now whenever I do this, I just return that guy. So this is going to be fast. And I can run this. And it should say the same thing, the same way. I should print out the last name. Yeah. Okay, so we did that. And so the last thing I want to show was the find binary search, right? So let's say we also want to find people by their name. Now I've loaded everybody into memory. I want to find every person by name. So I'm going to say public person find by first name. Right. It's going to take me the string and then the name. So I can use the Collections.binarySearch. And then what I do is I give it the people array, and I have to give it the person that I'm looking for, which I don't have yet. So I'm going to have to create a new person. Person P is a new person with last name. I don't care, so I'm going to leave that null, but I'm going to make this that name. I should rename that to first name, last name, first name. P. So this actually returns an index. So if you read the documentation there, it says it returns, you can see it returns an int, which is going to be the index into people in this case. So an index into the list. So we don't want to return that. So that's just the index. We actually want to return is people.get index, the actual person. There we go. Now, the thing about binary search is this assumes people are already sorted by the thing that we're searching for. In this case, that is first name, right? So it's going to assume that people are sorted by the first name. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So let's try this. So print out the congruous. I'm going to sort by first name, print that out, and make sure that works. And then congruous dot find by first name. I'm going to look for Bob, say. That's going to return a person P, right? And then I'm going to print out that person. I'm going to say found P. Let's see if that works. So I'll print it out, Okay. Found Bob Corker. There you go. So you see they're sorted by first name, and then you can find them. I found Bob Corker. If, for example, you didn't sort them, I'm going to comment that out and just comment that out. It won't work. It'll break. You printed that out, so there's the error. It's going to give you an array index out of bounds exceptions because basically, it doesn't. The binary search is not going to work unless it's sorted properly. So that's it.